Good evening and welcome again. My name is Liam Kennedy and I warmly welcome you to another episode of Look Up Tonight. This is the cable show of the Orange County Astronomers, and we're one of the largest amateur astronomy clubs in the country, and we invite you one and all to watch our show and learn what our club is all about. The following feature, What's Up, is from the February meeting held at Chapman University in Orange. So fasten your seatbelts as Chris Butler, our Renaissance man at large, takes us on a trip to the planets and beyond. Get ready to see some of the fun and interesting stuff you can observe in the winter in our skies. Here's Chris.
Hi everybody, I hope that I can perform up to your expectations. I have aged over the years as I've done these presentations. You know, I was 17 when I started. I've officially entered middle age. No, I'm not 40 until the 28th of October, but I did have yesterday 2 of those exams, okay? Normally, a man would not stand for such indignities, but it's difficult to sit down for a bit. But I'm okay now, and boy, I'm just real glad to be here instead, okay? So, good to see all of you. We do indeed have a What's Up presentation for the month, if we can get it. Yeah, thank you very much. Because we're on cable now, as a film guy, I know we have to put some disclaimers out there. Actually, come to think about it, now that I know this is going out on cable, all of Southern California will now know I've had my dipstick checked, okay? So, but I'm fine, folks. I'm fine. Thank you for caring. We'll get letters about that one. Where's the next button? That one, okay. You guys all know this. Let's go ahead and get into what's up. This is February. February, what does that mean? February means, of course, Saturn is beautifully placed. It means lots of things that we're going to talk about. But of course, it also means, and a lot of you gentlemen may have forgotten this, Valentine's Day. All right? So interspersed with our interstellar information, we will also have some information for you gentlemen especially, but also you ladies of an intellectual spin who are searching across the vast starry expanses to find someone to share all these wonders with. Guys understand intuitively, of course, that this is an easy task because, of course, chicks just really dig this stuff. We know that. She's what got us the PG-13. There's nothing worse than the show. But Monique here thinks astronomy is just fantastic. So what I'm going to do to help you is to share at a few points in the presentation some notable quotes, how other great minds of astronomical scientists have solved this problem over the years. For example, Isaac Newton. That these kinds of lines will work, really. But you have to be on a university campus for it to work. And just kind of circle the physics building and look for girls. If you find any guys, give it a try. For the ladies, just show up. It will happen, don't worry. Let's go ahead and launch into some things going on with the planets this time of year. Let me talk about the planets that I'm not going to talk about. First of all, Mercury. I'm not going to focus on Mercury. Why? In the morning sky, dark 30, I do not get up at that hour. However, it's also dropping towards the sun right now. So if I told you to go look for it, it'd be too late, basically, to go look for it. So really, this month, not a terribly good time to watch for Mercury. Venus is pretty good. Mars we'll talk about. Jupiter and Saturn are both fantastic. Uranus and Neptune don't get talked about much. I will at least say Uranus in the pre-dawn sky. You have a chance to see it with the telescope if you really want to. However, it's going to just barely be up by the time the sun gets up. So not a good time. Neptune's actually behind the sun right now, which makes it slightly less favorable for looking at with your telescope. If you try, you will get a Darwin Award, all right? We give a special plaque for that in the class, but you'll never see the plaque, so why bother? Venus, for once, accurately rendered as far as surface detail. I promised a special focus on Venus. We should. You obviously saw the dumb thing. It's the big blazing thing up in the west, brighter than any other planet. Always bright, but now also getting larger, 16 arc seconds now. And Venus is beginning also to show some phase. When it was back behind the sun, it was a little tiny, perfectly lit dot. Of course, the light bulb is between us and it. We can only see the lit side. But as it swings around, we're starting to see more and more of a bite of darkness taken out of the side until when it becomes between us and the sun, of course, we'll see it go to a crescent, and then we'll lose sight of it as it's totally blacked out. But now it's 42 degrees from the sun in angle across the sky. That means beautifully placed. It is not at its highest. It is not at its brightest. Those things will occur, I believe, next month. I'll have to double check on that. But Venus, wonderful to notice, at least with your eyes. Guys, I've mentioned goddess of love. Use the fact, please. Mars is pathetic right now. It is in the evening sky as well. You can see its times for setting. Doesn't set till 11:17, but it transits, means it's at its highest at 4:33. So when it gets dark, it's already on the way down. Mars is not at its best by any means. It's also far from us, which means it's only 6 arc seconds in size in the sky, so not at all well placed. But of course, you might want to notice it with your eyes. You can see it with your eyes. But that's just because, of course, we've got all those nice rovers just knocking us dead over there. It's wonderful. Jupiter, these are shown to the same scale, by the way. This gives an idea how much bigger Jupiter is in your telescope than Mars. Obviously, this is a highly enlarged picture compared to what most telescopes would show, but it is that much bigger. Jupiter is up at 7 o'clock, not in the west, in the east, and rising higher. Jupiter is essentially up all night. It is brighter than anything except Venus, the sun, and the moon. If you can't find Venus, we really will kick you out of the club, okay? So this is an easy one. And another way to cheat, if you want to know some star or planet for the beginners, planets do not tend to twinkle because they actually have more size in the sky. That's why they do it. The stars twinkle because they're very small, and atmospheric interference makes them seem to wink actually in and out. So Jupiter, a steady, glowing, brilliant light in the east, beautifully placed all month. Saturn, almost straight overhead as evening kicks off properly. Once it gets good and dark, Saturn crosses at the zenith almost at 8:40 p.m., and it won't be down till 3:48 in the morning, folks. That is enough time for all the telescoping or romance you wish. And the rings are oriented as shown, wide open 24 hours a day. Another note, and something that occasionally surprises me, the bright dot there, Venus, over the western horizon. The other thing indicated there is comet linear. There are about 1 million comet linears, it seems, that have been discovered, because this spacecraft actually has discovered just zillions and zillions of them. This particular one, however, unlike most comets, which end up being relatively faint, has the promise of being really, really bright. This comes around every once in a while. Those of you who are old enough to remember Hale-Bopp may remember occasionally we don't get disappointed, right? This might be the next big one. It looks like it probably will be. Right now, you wouldn't see it with your eyes. You need a telescope. Ballpark of 6th magnitude right now. However, the peak predicted magnitude is magnitude 0.4. They're not messing around with this one. This would be one of those make an accident, drive into a freeway pylon on the 57 kinds of comets, okay? Now, what's it going to be doing over there? Well, hold on, I'll show you in the sky. This plot does not show what the comet is doing in outer space, but what it does in our sky. If you're just looking west at the same time every night, about 7 p.m., right now the comet is over in the position which is shown on the right to start this. So it's up a bit right over in here. However, as the month goes by, in the next few months, this comet's going to be dropping like this into the sunset, getting steadily brighter as it actually gets closer to the sun. That's what's going on. So this is improving and improving and improving and getting to be about 4th magnitude. Then it disappears and goes down close to the sun. We lose sight of it. It actually goes behind the sun is what's going on. The interesting thing is that it reappears somewhere about 3rd week of May. It's going to reappear and then swing up and then drop down again and disappear back behind the sun. The interesting thing is when it reappears, it will be at its best. it will suddenly blow your eyes out in the sky. You will just look out in the sunset, and this thing will have shown up. Now, if this does go as planned, you might, from a relatively dark sky, see something like this. That's a computer prediction out of the program Starry Night Pro showing, I believe this is May 23rd. For those of you who go up to the RTMC Astronomy Expo up in Big Bear, you may be seeing this hanging over the mountains out to the west. Pretty spectacular. So all the way through May, late May, into June, into mid-June, the comet should be naked eye visible at the least. So keep your eyes out. Wanted to warn you early. Looking at the sky, this is the way a fraternity member sees the sky after a party. And if he stays out there on the lawn long enough, he will begin to see the stars come out. Out there in the west, these are actually, the positions are slightly cheated a little later at night. This is Venus off in the west. Actually, when the sunset happens, Venus is higher. These planets should be cheated over. There's Jupiter rising out in the east, Saturn just about the top of the sky, and other bright stars beginning to come out. Of course, this is just about as many stars as we ever see from Orange County, but if you go to the depths of the desert, or what the hey, just blow the power grid, folks, you might begin to see something more like this. The Milky Way is going overhead now on winter evenings, about 9 o'clock, which is when this map is centered. However, the winter Milky Way is quite faint. It is fainter, I think, really than shown here, certainly even from a dark sky site. It's not towards the center of our Milky Way galaxy, but outside. The exact direction outside in our galaxy is this away. So we're looking away from downtown. It's fainter. However, the brilliant collection of stars here in what we like to call the winter hexagon, because you can draw a big six-sided shape around some of the bright stars on the outside, that's been commanding our attention, and justifiably so. Not only is it where Saturn is residing here among the stars of Gemini, but it includes the brightest of all the nighttime stars right here, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. So these constellations understandably grab our attention. They are much easier to recognize when you ask for the lines to be displayed in the sky, and can draw imaginary patterns. The constellations move this way across the sky as the Earth rotates, but they also move this way as the seasons progress, meaning that next month Orion won't be here at 9, it'll be over here, then it'll be over here, then it'll disappear actually off into the west. So we've been focusing on these constellations. This month we're going to focus over in here to get your attention on some of the trailing edge, basically, of the winter stars. Before we do, though, some more advice for the lovelorn. Maybe you have something in your life you think you'd like to share. Edwin Hubble there, many years ago. And you know, the pipe and the dapper jacket certainly help his ensemble. Returning to the winter sky, you all know about the constellation of Orion with the 3 stars for belts, 2 for shoulders, 2 for knees, really looks like a guy. We got the V shape, the Hyades star cluster in Taurus, the Bull, the Pleiades star cluster, all these things, very noteworthy. But this is the area that we're focusing on now, containing 2 of the very brightest of the nighttime stars, here and here in 2 separate constellations. If you want to find this brightest nighttime star in the sky, you could go through the belt and extend it to the southeast and find it. Or what the hey, why don't you just look at the brightest star in the sky? Just guessing, folks. Moving on in, this really is a pretty area of the sky. Looking at this, these constellations are maybe not quite so obvious. Again, if you ask the lines to be displayed, things get a little bit easier here. Some of these, when you draw the lines, you can see what they're supposed to be. Orion still looks like a guy. However, some of the things look like something, but not the something they're supposed to be. By this shape, I might connect these stars this way. It's supposed to be a rabbit. Right. Okay. But that's not even the worst of it. That's supposed to be a unicorn. I'm not kidding. And that proves that unicorns do not exist, right? There's nothing there. They were desperate for a constellation. They needed a zip code, so they put it in. Now this does look like a nice pattern of stars in here, supposed to be a dog. More on that momentarily. The dog pattern here, however, looks a great deal more like a surfer. I've said this a million times. Trust me, if you look for the surfer with the surfboard and a little hand hanging back, it really looks like it, right? So this is surfer major, all right? Now, maybe you're having some trouble seeing that as a dog. I can help you. Just do that. If you're under the night sky, it's harder to do this. In fact, it's illegal. But you can just remember what you saw here with Spot. The bright star here called Sirius marks his collar or his heart. These kind of mark the back haunches here, and he has a long leg in the back and a nuclear mutated short leg up here. Apparently he's had some bad luck running into Toyotas or something, I don't know. But that is Canis Major, the great dog. Fair and fine, that's okay. What's kind of amusing is that he's not the only dog here. He's a hunting dog following Orion around the sky who's chasing Taurus the bull there. And notice, here's the hunter, here's his prey, dog swear. Smart boy, smart boy. Now, this is the big dog. This is actually the little dog. This is Canis Minor right here. I'm not kidding you. That's a dog right there. That's mostly, they drew that just because there was a bright star there, the seventh brightest of all the nighttime stars, called a Procyon, or Procyon. There's really only one kind of dog it could be. Now, for the purists here who subscribe to Dog Fancy magazine, you could have a dachshund, okay? Nothing wrong with doxies, I love them too, okay? But these are the mythological figures here. Looking down in this area first, you're going to check out the big dog first, and I don't blame you, it's got the brightest stars. When we dive into this area, this whole constellation is just jam-packed with all kinds of exciting things to have a look at. Great spot to look at. Starting off just, for example, with Sirius here, brightest nighttime star. This is a close-up photograph of Sirius. Sirius is a brilliant blue-white star, is hotter than our sun, so it burns in a different color. It really looks like a diamond sparkling. It's magnificent. For those of you who have large telescopes and need to justify your manly power, what you can do is try to spot the companion to Sirius, which isn't easy. It's a double star, has another star in orbit around it. However, the companion star is quite close to it when you go in on high power, and more to the point, it's like looking for a fly that's going around a searchlight, okay? It's really lost in the glare. It's hard to see it, but it's exotic and worthwhile because while this is a normal sun like ours, okay, 23 times brighter than our sun, but still a normal sun, this is actually the core of a sun that's burned out, called a white dwarf star. So it's a dead star orbiting it. It is about the size of the Earth, but is about approximately as heavy as our own sun. So really a kind of a remarkable object and worth hunting for, but a bit of a challenge. I should point out, for those of you who are wimps like me, one of the stars down in the bottom of the constellation, in the surfer's front leg, or the dog's bottom or back leg, is Adhara. Adhara is a very bright star, but has a lovely companion sun that's easier to spot. So that's where you go after you start crying. I can't find the other. M41 is a beautiful star cluster, and this is one of my favorite objects of all. It's right down south, or straight down when Sirius and Canis Major are highest. Just drop straight down towards the horizon a little bit. This beautiful thing can even be seen in binoculars from the city pretty easily. In the desert, it can be seen with the unaided eye. In Buena Park, it can be seen with a radio telescope only. But that's what they tell me. But really, it's lovely. And in fact, if you look in here and you see some yellow stars, it's got some color in it too. One of my absolutely favorite objects. Star clusters are one of the main attractions in this constellation. A fainter, smaller cluster, but very rich in star populations, NGC 2204. That would be off the surfer's front arm, just right out in here. You need a telescope to see that one. But you know, my favorite of all of them is NGC 2362. This spike here is an artifact, for those of you who know this, of CCD imaging, okay? There's not really a spike, okay? Don't go looking for the spike. What there is a bright bluish star and okay, star clusters are supposed to be majestic and spectacular. There's certain words men use, all right? This one is cute, okay? I can tell you that because you're my friends, all right? But it is, because it's small. It's a little tiny cluster. You find the star and you're wondering, is that the one? And then you look and there are these little guys. They're all around it, like little blue bees. It's really cool. And so this little family of stars here is actually a big star cluster, but a long way away. This star right here, which for some reason is also referred to as the Mexican jumping star, it's on the chart. I didn't make it up. It's bizarre. But the Tau Canis here, this star, you can see with the naked eye, although it's about 6,000 light years away. That star is about 100,000 times as bright as our sun. So it is well worth your attention, a very, very pretty little star cluster. NGC 2207, for those of you who want to hunt down galaxies, also in the front part of the constellation. Again, need a telescope, need a dark side, need your imagination. This is a spiral galaxy that's actually colliding with another one. This is NGC 2207. This one's off in the IC catalog somewhere. I don't see it from Buena Park, but these two are actually distorting each other, all those billions of suns way out there in the distance. So kind of a neat thing to look for if you can do so. NGC 2217, another spiral galaxy located in the bottom of the constellation. This is a pretty rich constellation, and I haven't touched on all the stuff that's there. So this gives you some idea that the big dog is well worth your time. Now, men, about wardrobe. You're a nerd, but what kind of a nerd are you? What you don't want to be is a Star Trek science fiction convention nerd. You want to be a Harvard University nerd, okay? This is a good look. It worked for Carl, it works for you. Turtlenecks, always in style. Just want to let you know I agree with Carl on that. Going back here, we've talked about the big dog. What about the hot dog up here? Is there anything in Canis Minor that's worth looking at? Well, let's look at the chart with all of the objects turned on. Well, someone's got to lose out in the big constellation contest, right? Well, they got the seventh brightest nighttime star, Procyon there. There's another fairly bright star, Gomeza, but that's pretty much it. There are a few faint background galaxies, but really nothing else noteworthy there. It's also a very small constellation. In fact, for trivial pursuit, is it in fact the smallest of all constellations in the sky? Ponder that for a moment while I show you something about Procyon, in case you want to go out and have a look at Procyon there. Procyon also has a companion, which is, believe it or not, also a white dwarf dead star orbiting it, just about exactly like Sirius, which is kind of creepy because Sirius and Procyon are both close to us and are in fact next-door neighbor stars to each other, but unrelated, but they both apparently have these. The companion to Procyon, even harder to see because it's closer to the star. Chicks dig wheels, okay? And Stephen Hawking has a few advantages over the rest of us. He's inherently cool because he's British, which is not fair. And so he's got that going on. He's got the wheels, and just as an afterthought, he's probably the most intelligent human being that ever lived, okay? That's not fair, but I don't give him credit for the absolutely best advice because he did have some at least equals in the world of astronomy and science. And when it comes down to it, when it comes to energy and matter, it is energy that matters. And I will leave the last of our advice comments to Dr. Einstein. So I hope maybe some of that's at least a little bit helpful to you. We've got people who have bought a lot of telescopes. I love there's a Renaissance period, Renaissance period painting of an astronomer discovering the truth. I'll close with that. This guy up in the roof, he's found out there was something missing, folks, in his life. And we have a lot of constellations, including the big dog, that are wonderful to look at. But please remember, especially at this time of year, they're a lot more fun if you have somebody to share them with. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thanks, Chris, for a fact-filled, fun, and as usual, very entertaining presentation. There certainly is plenty to see in the night sky over the coming month. Just before we go, we have a special feature produced on location somewhere in Pasadena. This month, I visited the Planetary Society headquarters in Pasadena. The society was formed in 1980 by Carl Sagan, Bruce Murray, and Lou Friedman. I went there specifically to find out about their radio show. Yes, the Planetary Society has their very own radio show. It's called Planetary Radio. And you can tune in yourself as it's broadcast right here in Orange County every Monday. Just tune to KUCI, that's 88.9, at 5:30 p.m. on Mondays, and you'll be treated to a great fun and fact-filled show hosted by Matt Kaplan. Look out for their very own What's Up segment, where Planetary Society's Bruce Betts gives a brief summary of the best things to look out for in the night skies each week. If you missed their show, you can also listen in at any time by heading over to their website at planetary.org. Just look for the links to Planetary Radio and away you go. While you're there, I'd highly suggest you take a look around. The Society has a wealth of information that I find truly fascinating. From their website, you can even operate a little remote Mars rover. These rovers are not quite as far away as the real ones are. Each little Mars rover sits inside a very realistic Mars terrain, and you can control where it goes while looking at the video camera image on your browser. This is the Carl Sagan Memorial Mars Station set up in the offices of the Planetary Society, but there are many other Mars stations on the internet. Just zip along to their website and find out more. Thank you again for joining us this evening. We're looking forward to seeing you again at our next show featuring Dr. Gary Peterson, who'll be speaking about the oceans and atmospheres of our solar system's planets. You must not miss that episode, as Dr. Peterson shares his astounding theory on what has happened to the Earth's ocean over the past 650 million years. Till next time, get out there and look up tonight.